No mai, haere mai. Welcome to Cult Chat, the podcast where we talk about control, coercion, and all things cultish. I'm Dr. Caroline Ansley. I'm a medical doctor. As a child, I lived at the notorious Centrepoint community, and now I run a website that advocates for former Centrepoint children.
I'm Liz Gregory, and I lead the Gloriavale Leavers Support Trust. I've spent the last decade helping people exit Gloriavale and journeying with them and building new lives.
I'm Lindy Jacob. I'm a former member of the Exclusive Brethren, and I'm part of the Olive Leaf Network, an initiative that supports people leaving high-demand religious groups.
Come with us as we unpack the cult playbook, talk to leavers and experts of coercive and controlling groups, and call for Kiwis to cult-proof their lives.
Join us as we traverse the cultiverse.
A warning, this podcast contains references to subjects and discussions which may be difficult for some people to hear. Please take care of yourselves and your whānau when listening.
Hello ladies. So nice to see you both again. Here we are. We are recording for YouTube as well as being on Cult Chat podcast. I'm Kaz and I'm here with Lindy and Liz, and we're here to talk about some exciting stuff that's been happening in the news lately here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. What have you been doing lately, Liz?
Oh, crazy. It was a snowy weekend and we wanted to go away for 3 days up to Mount Cook. And it was a little bit dicey were the roads going to be open or not. But you know what? We managed to make it right into this little lodge, and the snow just came down, settled like 30 centimetres. And then we did this walk up into the Hooker Valley, and we were the first people to trample over the snow that day. We stayed, we played games, and then we had to scurry back, because that night, Monday night, we had 100+ ex-Gloriavale leavers at our house for a huli. We had bonfire marshmallows. The lawyers came down to do an update on what's happening in the sphere. And we had just a glorious time, as you do. Food, laughter. I'm sure for some it was, it's quite triggering when you might be the first time you've come to one of those gatherings and you remember these people as they were inside the group and how you were in the group. So actually it can be really difficult, these events. And so it's just remembering that people, are all on a journey, but on the whole, people really love these events. So that was fun. And then we ended up having 2 families stay, so 11 of them here at the house for a period of time, like some stayed like 3 or 4 nights. So yeah, it's been busy, chaos as it is.
Gosh.
Just a normal day at the Gregory's.
Normal, yeah. Yeah, well, I know Lindy's been up to something pretty interesting, but I want to pop in my bit first, because I know your bit is the really interesting bit.
You've been involved with snow too, haven't you, Kaz?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. And I was also going to just introduce you to my cat.
Beautiful.
That's Athena. Okay, she's just sleeping on my lap. Sorry for those who are listening, you won't be able to see Athena. While Liz was stepping through 30 centimetres of new snow, I was skiing on 30, 40, 50 centimetres of new snow last weekend. A very bizarre, wintry, early spring encounter. It was very strange. But yes, we had a ski camp up at the ski field with my boys, with some of the biggest sort of New Zealand international ski jumping names coming to tutor our, like, 50 kids and teach them how to leap off rocks and do massive jumps in the air. And oh gosh, it was entertaining.
Right.
They even had a jump over the rope. So you're going up the rope because it's rope toes, nothing as fancy as a chair. No, we just drag ourselves up on a rope, and the kids were leaping over the rope.
It sounds like a perfect event to have a doctor close to
you. Actually, my friend who's an emergency physician, he was there, and there was another GP, and I'm pretty sure there's always lots of doctors up there. It's all right. You don't need to worry.
I've always wondered, how do you practice these things to perfect them? Because you must make spectacular errors that hurt along the way. I've never quite worked it out.
Snow is soft, Liz.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay.
Anyway, what have you been doing, Lindy? We know it's been very interesting. Tell us.
Yeah, I have had an interesting week. Yeah. I won't talk about boring things like the chickens and the frogs this time, but I've had an unexpected week. It's had two sort of curveballs thrown into it in the middle of last week. Firstly, we heard all of a sudden, I think it was on Tuesday evening, that the global leader of the Exclusive Brethren, or the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, was going to be flying into the country for like emergency short notice meetings for 2 or 3 days, and he wanted all of the New Zealand Brethren, which is about 7,000 or 8,000. Sorry, I'm a bit forgetful on the exact figures there, but about 7,000 or 8,000 brethren, everyone over the age of 5 who was able-bodied, to be travelling to Palmerston North by plane and bus, and even reports of they were obviously scrabbling for enough vehicles to contain all these people, and so they'd even apparently hired prison vans to help get everybody there.
I read that and I just thought there's some irony.
That was so ironic. Okay, it was like, are you serious?
Surely buses are a bit easier to get hold of than prison vans.
Maybe not with 24 hours notice.
I don't know how they got hold of them all, but they'd obviously cleaned out the transport systems. Like, all sorts of people were contacting ex-brethren or people saying, what's happening in the airports? Because literally on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning and for the next few days, there were brethren galore in the airports. And also in Palmerston North, the supermarkets were full of frazzled brethren women running around purchasing food. So the brethren do fairly frequently have kind of conference type things. They call them fellowship meetings for all of their flock. And brethren are not allowed to stay in motels or hotels, so they have to be accommodated by other members.
Now, just asking, is that because they're not? Is the sewage thing, the cleanly?
It's definitely because of the doctrine of keeping separate from the wider world. But
sewerage? Why are we talking about sewerage?
They brethren don't allow themselves to share a driveway, or there was like quite a long period of time, I'm not sure if it's still like it, but to not even share to not have houses that are joined to each other, so that. And so one of the kind of rules that they went by to discern whether your house was joined or not was if it had shared walls or if it had a shared sewage system for the sewage leaving the property.
Something about the waste mixing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and if there was anything shared like that, then a brethren person couldn't purchase their house and couldn't live in it. There's some quite funny pictures that came out of England from a couple of decades ago, where people who owned conjoined houses literally got them separated by about half a foot and built a whole new wall. And so there's these the English houses are built next to each other, but then there's some that are been separated by a foot, because it was exclusive brethren who took that doctrine so seriously.
Did they dig up the pipes as well?
I have no idea.
Phenomenal. Okay, so they don't stay. So they don't stay in motels for various reasons, including sharing of sewage with the Great Unwashed.
The Great Unwashed. They're for those listeners or viewers who are not 100% familiar with the Exclusive Brethren, their core doctrine that they've had ever since their founder is that they believe that they've got a phrase called separation from evil, and for them that's their core doctrine. It's kind of for them the heart of what Christianity is. It's the key lens through which they interpret the Bible. It's like the most important thing they can do is to keep separate from evil and to kind of wait for the return of Christ. So for them that's like the key thing that they are worried about, and that's why they practice shunning, and it's why they it's why they
don't let people have lunch.
Yeah, why they have their private schools. It's why you're not allowed to be employed by outsiders and not allowed to go to university in general. Yeah, everything comes back to separation from evil. So we heard that the big man, the global leader, was coming into the country at short notice, and normally he does give weeks or even months notice, and the families spend ages getting ready and cleaning your house from top to bottom and purchasing new linen and filling your freezer with baked and cooked goodies and all that. So to give basically 12 hours notice is quite unprecedented. And I really felt for actually the school teachers and the school kids, because the teachers were, I understand, emailed on Tuesday night saying, oh, by the way, a community event is happening. School is closed for the next 3 days. Enjoy your break.
Because they're worldly school teachers, aren't they? They don't have any Brethren trained.
Non-Brethren school teachers, because
I
they
would be
can't
worried.
train their own teachers,
Yeah.
because that would involve going to university. So, yeah, their private schools are run by non-members.
But I wouldn't be worried about those school teachers. I reckon having a 3-day snap holiday, I don't imagine that they would be moaning.
So speak of the school teacher,
So
the
speak
former
of
school
the
teacher.
school teacher.
Yeah.
Hey, so I think, Lindsay, there's a lot on this, and I think we should spend a bit of time on this episode actually having a dig into some of this, because I read the newspaper articles that came out about it, and it was great to see an article actually about this situation, and I've got heaps of questions.
Obviously, this is relevant to me because it's the group that I left, and I'm fascinated to see the obviously high levels of pretty strong influence that Bruce Hales clearly has on his flock in New Zealand.
Yeah, I've got things to ask. So do you think, do we have that discussion now, and then do we come back to the second
now, and then we can
we'll come back to the other thing that you've done the last week or so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So this episode is really about Lindy and her life. Okay. Can we have a theme tune? Lindy's life, part 1. Okay, Lindy. So can
Only
I ask...
the interesting parts of it.
Can I ask about the financial impact of this? So I'm just thinking, like, 8,000 people get like 24 hours notice to go, Palmerston North? Where was it? Palmerston North. Okay, is there a special reason? Is that where the special...
Don't they have a big event centre there? Like millions of dollars worth of event centre?
Yeah, they do. They've got a pretty new, one of their most recent hall facilities that they meet in for their like church meetings. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty bad at remembering facts and figures, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that hall was about 17 million to build.
I saw something, a big number.
Yeah, and it can take several thousand people at once, and so they've got like fixed seating, but then they fill the hall. They fill the like aisles and the foyer with seating as well, and put up screens so that they can apparently fit in several thousand people at once.
Okay.
But yes, there is a significant cost, because if you're a family, especially a family with a number of children, and you're expected to drop tools and go to that
thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you might have flights to pay, or the transport to pay, and then if you're expected to give your host money as well. It'd be easily several $1,000s.
Where do they all stay? I mean, do they use this facility to stay in, like Marae style, where you sleep in the main?
They stay in each other's homes, and so I mean,
7,000.
Must be a lot of brethren up there.
Are there a lot?
They did what we did this weekend and had 11 extra guests in our house.
Yeah, I think we used to have, I'm pretty sure we had up to 20 people stay at one time, and like we cleared out our garage, carpet, and went Marae style.
Love it.
Yeah, lots of brethren.
As a kid, you would have loved it.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah. And you have special food, and like the brethren really love their food and their alcohol. So we have had reports come from someone who'd seen the invoice. This is from a member, because the brethren actually have their own alcohol store. You can look it up. It's called Vendemia.
That does not surprise me.
And you can only buy from it if you're a member, and you have like a member's login and that type of thing. I believe you can purchase alcohol through Campus & Co as well. So Campus & Co is the Brethren's global private supermarket. And the interesting thing about Campus & Co is that, like, obviously it utilizes group buying power to, in theory, give people cheaper products and stuff. But what really brings the price down for Campus & Co is that it is almost entirely run on the free labor of women, which would interest you, Liz, very much.
Of course it does. The woman, yes.
So the women stock the shelves, the women serve it.
But they do it willingly with a smile on their face, because they're living.
Of course they do. Yeah,
there's no compulsion.
To be fair, it makes a wonderful break from doing the housework, and it's like one of the only other things that Brethren women are allowed to do.
Yeah.
I've
But
just tried to purchase my 2 bottles of cognac and a single malt whiskey, and I have to log in for.
Okay.
Oh,
And you don't look
yeah.
like an exclusive brethren, so there's a fail. So,
Yeah.
Lindy, I want to go back to, they're all living in these houses. There's 20 people there. It's the kids are having a good time, but the parents must be excited. They've just been called at short notice. They must be dead curious. What is going
Yeah,
on?
you're right. Like,
What
for
on
them-
earth could be so important that you get one day's warning to all meet at the venue in Palmy North?
And
You
it's
know
not a destination, Palmerston North. Just
No, it's not.
for
It's
our
not.
international listeners,
I'm
it
worried
is
about
not a
the airport.
destination.
How did the airport cope? But anyway, that's okay. I mean, I wish the airport would have wished they had more warning so they could get in the right, stock the shelves with the right clothing and make some money off the passengers.
They probably did. Although the Brethren have been long time big clients of Air New Zealand and also frequently book charter flights.
Yes,
As
I
well.
read
They've
that in the
done that
article.
for decades. So
Okay.
yeah, and but again, they actually run their own entity that helps handle the fares.
Yeah, of course.
And
Okay.
it doesn't actually work out cheaper for the families. We've had like lots and lots of reports of the flights. Often people can actually get flights cheaper by booking direct
Oh,
through
no, they're making money off them.
other airlines, but it does
Mm.
seem like the Brethren entity. It used to be called Hughes Travel Trust. I'm not sure what it's called now, but it does seem like the Brethren travel agent entity is, perhaps taking a bit of a profit, which of course in their mind is
It's a title.
probably it's it's for the Lord's work or something. So
Private business allowed to make a
Yeah.
profit. They're just a travel agent. Good for them doing the Lord's work. Okay, so they're like curious. So what goes through the grapevine, Lindy, the day that the missive comes out that Bruce Hale is coming to town? What did you hear?
well, I think for dedicated members, people used to say when I was in there, which was nearly 15 years ago now, that Bruce Hales was the manifestation of the Holy Spirit of
Wow.
God. So in other words, his voice and, what he says is like direct manifestation from on high. So for them, it is really exciting to spend time with Bruce Hales. And, they call him the man of God and the elect vessel and other things like that. So yeah, there would have been a lot of excitement probably, as well as for those who were perhaps undercover doubters or who were not so sure, who might have been frustrated about.
Oh, you'd be pretty irritated with 12
yeah.
hours notice.
But do you think that they were worried that he was coming with some news that might be
Yeah, they could have
spectacularly
been. They could have
bad?
been. I have heard that like the Brethren are in 10 or 12 countries internationally, but we have heard that the New Zealand Brethren have over the years been troublesome and been that they tend to be independent thinkers, which is like one of those phrases that the Brethren have that's like really bad, like, how dare you think differently to the leader or whatever. So yeah, apparently New Zealanders have always been a little bit rebellious and have always not really accepted very easily the international leaders.
A bit more
so
liberal.
It's possible that we've heard a few rumours of a bit of rebellion of numerous people leaving and thinking of leaving. So it's possible that some people were thinking, heck, is he here to tell us off?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, that's what you do. When an organisation, you start to sense a bit of a thing, you come in and you just remind people of their faith and the promises they've made. Yeah.
Feels like there must have been something going on, some kind of very worrying turn of events, just to prompt such a such event, or is it all just manipulation? All planned out. Give them 12 hours notice. We plan the whole thing, but we just get on a plane to terrify them. Is this the end times? Is this it's all over? We need to get on a plane and bring them all together.
I did sort of want to make a joke about, has the Kool-Aid all been bought from out of the supermarkets? But that's probably a wee bit cheeky. But yeah, you are kind of like, what is he doing? But we've waited to hear reports from what was said, and I personally have heard very little about what was said. Apparently, he did preach on Wednesday at one of the earlier meetings about even having care and compassion. So that was like very ordinary. and yeah, I don't know. There's a few kind of theories.
Does he normally? Is that something that he's spoken about before? Care
No,
and compassion?
he doesn't normally.
Oh, no.
I don't think speak about that to any great
No.
length, though.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Some people have wondered if he's very aware, perhaps, that the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse and Care is still in proceeding in New Zealand, and there are some reports that they are not going to be too favourable towards the Exclusive Brethren, because there have been dozens of people who have testified to the Royal Commission, and with allegations of abuse from the Brethren, from being under their care. So it's possible that, for all we know, he could have been meeting some people connected with the Royal Commission and trying to put forward their best foot or something, or maybe they knew that the teaching might be shared with the Royal Commission, and so they wanted it to be quite,
want some evidence.
I had heard a few weeks ago, or a bit longer ago, that there was some concern in the Exclusive Brethren around the Gloriavale Employment Court ruling around volunteers. So that had come through out of the Exclusive Brethren into someone we knew. I thought, that's interesting.
Super fascinating.
The bus drivers and the woman in the shop. So,
oh my gosh, that's fascinating. Yeah, because as far as I understand, up and down the country, the children are collected from their homes and taken to school and back again by the free labour of women who drive little vans to ferry them all around. And again, arguably that should be paid work. And yeah, same with the Campus and Co supermarkets. It should really be paid work, in my opinion. Of course,
if it's got coercion and force out here, this is it, because there's got to be a place for volunteers. And so it's always looking at the factors around it.
Yeah, which is complicated, right? Because of course, we love volunteers up and down New Zealand. Volunteers do wonderful things, and I'm not at all saying that every voluntary thing you do should be paid, but it's just it gets pretty interesting when it's entire entities and businesses are being held together, fully dependent on the free labor of a certain category of people, right? Like it is interesting that it falls to the women. And there are some men, I believe, who hold the key leadership roles in those organisations, and my bet would be that they receive a wage for the work they do. Yeah,
interesting. So you haven't heard a whole lot about what came out of it. So there wasn't any great big spectacular announcement that he was stepping down, or
no. But the thing that I found the wackiest is that, and again, this is a group that frequently trots out when they speak to the media. They're like, one of their latest lines that they use all the time is saying, "We're just a mainstream Christian church," which is hilarious, because there's so much about both their beliefs as well as their practice that no mainstream church would do. Such as insisting that you can only marry other group members, or saying that you can't study on-site at university, or
you told me that you can't marry someone of a different race.
Yep, you can't marry people of a different race. That's appalling. That really makes me angry, that one. It's hideous. Total racism. It's terrible. Yeah, there's still there's loads of things they do in their beliefs and practices that are totally not mainstream. But anyway, that's the line they're trotting out at the moment, and yeah, there are some things that are more normal that they do. Like they're not complete aliens. I will be balanced and say that.
But in your opinion?
The thing what did you say?
In your opinion, they're not complete aliens, because they could be. You don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You have to say that, though, because you're an ex. You were once one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just got a thought. Like, is there something else happening internationally in other parts of the Brethren Church that could have prompted this gathering?
Yeah,
like
trying to quell a scandal or something.
Yes, I'm just thinking about the Royal Inquiry into Abuse and Care here in New Zealand, and I know that it's already kind of finished and is in Australia, and it's moved on beyond that. Isn't that the case? I mean, is there something that has gone on somewhere else that could have prompted this?
I actually don't know, I'm afraid.
No.
You're right to ask it though, Kaz, because let's be honest, we all know that groups that have cultic practices all follow the same pattern. They always have a reason for everything they do.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There is a reason
There's
that
a
at
reason.
short notice he pulled all of the brethren together and flew in on his private jet from Australia. There is a reason. And whether he did it softly, and maybe he went softly, but there is something, there is discontent, there is a scandal, there is something there, and he is just softening up his people. And it sounds like he went a bit softer, according to the newspaper reports I read. Instead of coming down really hard, he's gone a little, he's trying to
maybe that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe for it to quell a scandal,
Kind of, yes, he went softly, but then again, he led with, like, to call your people at less than 12 hours notice, or whatever it was, to, like, drop everything and gather. That's not softly. That's actually, that's a real big power play, isn't it? Like, one of the things I was thinking was, like, was that, you know, a test of his followers? Because mark my words, if you didn't turn up, or if you didn't, you know, fork the money and trot along, your name would be taken note of, you know, and you would be black marked, or you would be followed up. So part of me wonders if it was, you know, a bit of a shaking of the tree. Who's with me? How far can
I'm watching you. I am your leader. Don't forget me. I hold power.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying just to think of people's different circumstances over the course of, you know, like people who have different means financially, who might be on a benefit, though I'm not sure if you're allowed to draw on one of those in the exclusive brethren, or if you're in hospital, or if you're in a rest home, or you're, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm struggling to imagine the life of a person in the exclusive brethren such that this is even possible for 7,000 people to drop everything. I can't imagine my, you know, like people in my world being able to do that, even if they did have, you know, a belief that meant that they knew it was necessary to follow that edict. Kind of like all the different reasons why you couldn't.
But the things you had planned that week. What about your, you know?
Well, your wedding, there were a funeral, you know.
Yeah, there's a big trade show, I believe, in Auckland, and many Brethren businesses had actually booked stalls there, because lots of Brethren people do run small, medium-sized businesses, and they go along to things like trade shows. And there were reports of Brethren members who were already there and packed up, having to suddenly pack down and just walk and forego that advertising and that networking of the trade show. So all kinds of losses, but the gain of hearing the voice of God,
of course.
And that's the thing, is the gain, because that would be a net loss of income for the brethren. You know, all those businesses to have to lose that unexpected business. So this is strange. Anyway,
but so to jump back, the thing that I did hear that was out of the box for me even was to hear that apparently, and I haven't heard of him doing this before, I might be out of the loop, because unlike what some brethren people might think, I actually don't think about them all day, and I don't track them, and I don't really have much clue of what they're up to. My main focus is just supporting people who leave as they, you know, usually look forward. But I did hear, and I did think that this was unprecedented, that Bruce Hales had organised for a huge meal to be put on for like each of the main days that people were there. And so this was serving like top shelf eye fillet steak and beautiful meals put on that were all catered, and as well serving alcohol. So going back to Vendemia, this report came from somebody inside. They'd seen an invoice, and it was over $100,000 of alcohol was bought and served over the conference.
$100,000, like, you know.
Oh, it's incredible, right? Because, and apparently there were signs saying only one drink per person, but that was not being monitored, and alcohol was being wheeled around on drinks trolleys and, you know, served to everybody there. And they also had got some brethren young people to who were musical to play to play songs, because another quirky thing about the Brethren is that you're not allowed to listen to recorded music. Like, you're not allowed to listen to secular music like Spotify and that type of thing. So if they want to listen to music, they have to play it themselves.
Yeah, but what if it's hymns? Can they listen to they can listen to recorded hymns?
No, only if it's been played by members and recorded by members. Yeah. So no, you can't listen. It's the separation thing again. You can't listen to someone who's not one of the members, even if it's hymns. It's not okay.
No, okay.
Gosh.
So yeah, so because they believe that everybody, even the rest of Christendom, is actually corrupt and
it might come through the airwaves and
they are the only ones with the greatest light. And even if others outside of them claim to be Christians, they're not really very authentic Christians, and they're not quite as good as the Brethren. So
gosh, I don't know, this doesn't sound at all familiar to any other group that I know. Nothing at all is ringing true with me, Lindy.
Wow, it's as I get to know Glory Vale, I'm just like, this is the same. And it's so fascinating. Like, I had a chat last night with a bunch of people from Cult Information and Family Support in Australia, a wonderful group over there that's been operating for a couple of decades, and there was a group of us having a chat, and there were ex-Moonyites, Camp David, ex-Children of God, and a few others, and everyone was saying about how their group believed they had the light and their group believed they had the Messiah, and we were cracking up because we were just like, this is just bonkers.
And all the way along it was over at Glory Vale. You guys just had it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought that was incredible to serve all of this food and alcohol again in mainstream. What mainstream Christian church is rolling out top shelf whiskey and alcohol at their church gathering?
No, apple cider at Glory Vale used to make apple cider, and when Hopeful found out that it was a bit fermented and a bit too alcoholic, that was the end of that. So.
Oh, really?
But they still made it extra fermented. I hear the stories of what people used to do.
So funny. Yeah, people find a way in these groups to still kind of push the boundaries, don't they? Whereas the Brethren do love fine food and alcohol, and I think Bruce Hales occasionally has made statements appearing like he's trying to keep it in check, but then again, there are so many reports of him loving to drink as well, and clearly, to serve alcohol, that would have come from him. There's no way that it would have been served unless that hadn't
the okay. Yeah, did I read somewhere that his father, when he was the man of God, had quite an enjoyment of alcohol? Was it?
I think it probably wasn't his father, but the man before him was by all accounts, it seemed like he was a very hopeless alcoholic, especially towards the end of his life.
Yes, that's what I've read.
And reports of him like drinking alcohol while he was taking meetings, like teaching meetings.
So not just the communion.
No,
Oh, wow.
But no, I do remember when I was in there, I remember having a similar community event, but it wasn't a church service. And Bruce had said beforehand for that, he had said, make sure there's Eiffel at stake and Blue Label whiskey, because we are the king's people.
Oh, don't want to eat from crumbs from the king's table. You want the...
It's this mentality of we're chosen, we're special, and so we can enjoy these material things.
Interesting comment there that they're from the king's table. But you see, Glory Vale has this other view that like they should suffer, so they like have secondhand food and like rotten food and seconds and that so quite a bit of their food is like other groups in the community need to get rid of food. So Glory Vale's kind of seen a bit like a dumping ground. And some of the ladies would tell us they would get all these strawberries like donated because they were old and seconds, and they would be like significantly moldy, and they would spend, because labor was free, bulk hours and hours just cutting out the rotten, and you'd be left with this small little pile, but you'd spent 4 hours on it. Would have just been better value to go and buy some
so is that kind of like a thrift saving mentality?
Yeah. Hopefully used to show off that for $3 a day, and I think it would increase to $5 a day, they could keep people alive.
I think it was one of the court case things.
Yes. It was I think $5 a day from memories, getting their food and their power and their clothing, and so definitely thrift, looking for that. And so when people come out of Glory Vale and they like come to your house and like do you want fish and chips, you should see their faces when you mention the word fish. They're like, I'm never eating fish again. I'm like, what's wrong with your fish? It was off, or it was too far gone, or it was, they give some great stories. Anyway.
It's a good way to keep people not thinking, is to underfeed them, isn't it?
Well, they do also have their own sort of veggie gardens and things. So I'm not saying all their food, but there's definitely that thrifty thing. And yes, heaps of people talk about being hungry and not having easy, ready access to good quality food. And the food that you get when you're a visitor there, that's the eye fillet. That's nice. The visitors get good food.
So, Linda, you have the other thing that you have experienced this week. The other little story in your week, which is sad news, but also there's a triumph in it.
Yeah. So, I'm going to do my best to kind of. I'm struggling for words in a way to try and put together what has just happened over the last week here. But in summary, on Wednesday morning, so Tuesday night, we'd heard that Bruce was coming and this whole thing was happening, and then Wednesday morning, fairly early on, we heard through a grapevine, not from family members in the Brethren, heard through a grapevine several points of contact. Someone contacted me and said, your Nana has just died. So her name was Anna Simmons, and she was an Exclusive Brethren member. She was 85, and she had actually been in a bit of decline for a few years and had been put into a residential care facility. So that had actually been quite nice when she was moved into there for me, because before she was in there, I couldn't visit her because she lived at home with her daughter and her husband, and she was forbidden from seeing me. But when she moved into this residential home, I could rock up and visit her whenever I liked, and I could call them and ask how she was doing. So that was actually quite nice for me, and because of that, I've been able to take my children to meet her and spend time with her whenever I've been in her city.
You have actually spoken before about this grandmother, your Nana,
yes,
about how she was a woman who kind of broke some of the rules and retained a connection with you on the sly.
Yes,
this is the Nana.
This is the one you dropped her in it on the airwaves.
Yeah.
Of
I
radio.
We removed her name, didn't we?
I think so.
We might have. Yeah.
Did we make a sneaky comment about the leaders coming round to tell her off? Maybe.
Yeah. Because I think I'd shared about her and how she secretly kept up contact with me, and then we were like, oh crap, should we say that on air, because maybe the press will go and visit her and discipline her, and we were trying to figure out whether they would or not. But so that's the same one. So she I left nearly 15 years ago, and in that period of time she did secretly keep up contact with me.
Bless that lady.
She had to do it secretly or she would get in trouble. She would buy a calling card from the supermarket so that it didn't show up on the phone bill, and she would phone me when her husband was out, and then she'd watch for his lights coming down the driveway, and then she'd quickly hang up. I discovered after leaving, of course, because I had no idea that she actually didn't believe in the strict separation until I left. It was the day that I was leaving, and she was saying goodbye to me, and I was beside myself, and I said to her, Nana, I can't do this. I can't say goodbye to you. And she knelt down and whispered in my ear, and she said, I will never cut you off.
Wow.
Which I was like, what? But her husband was right there, and my family members were there, and so she just whispered it to me.
Powerful.
After that, she would contact me.
Amazing lady.
Yeah. And I discovered that she had actually had contact with multiple people. Some of them were people that were never even Brethren members. Some were ex-members like me. But there was one couple who she had communication with for many years, who she had just bumped into in a supermarket, and they'd began chatting.
Wow.
And they struck up a friendship that lasted for several years.
Goodness.
Wow, this radical old lady.
I know, don't you love it?
And
I just
and
love
then
that she actually found it tormenting.
Yeah.
She was caught because she said, I love my husband and I don't believe that I should leave him. And she had 7 children in the Brethren, and many of them had gone on to have 5 or more children themselves. She had dozens of children
It's
in
called
there.
social entrapment.
Yeah, it reminded me of that lovely woman from Gloria Vale who toured with the film.
Sharon Reddy.
Yeah, it reminded me of her saying,
Yep.
like, I can't leave. I'm going to keep living on the property because, this is where my children and my grandchildren are. That was a lot like her.
So she died last week, and that must have been very hard, knowing that as a member on the what are you called when you leave?
Yeah, ex-member, an
opposer,
a bad person.
They call them outs, which cracks me up because it's kind of like
the devil incarnate.
Like, are you an innie or an outie? But anyway,
so that you knew that you would not be able to be part of any kind of traditional ceremony of grief and coming together and saying goodbye and sharing memories. You knew that would not be available to you, even if it had been her wishes.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kaz. So in the Brethren, there's all sorts of awful stories that abound from ex-members because of this. Again, it comes back to that strict separation doctrine that they believe that even in death, they need to maintain that separation. And so they do actually bury their people in cemeteries that the general public use, which is surprising because you think they'd almost set up their own ones, but maybe you need special permission to do that. But they do bury them kind of together, which again, it's not entirely unusual. But yeah, there are so many stories of people who have been notified after their ex-members who have been notified after their loved one has not only died but been buried. And they've phoned or made contact. How's Uncle Joe going, or how's Dad going? And he actually died 2 weeks ago and was buried. So there's lots and lots of stories like that, and then there's lots of stories as well of people who did find out, and or who even sometimes had a sick bed visit or whatever you call it, like as they were dying. But people who we've never had any story of anyone being allowed to attend the funeral service. And then the graveside ceremony, because the Brethren don't do cremation or anything, they do full coffin burial. And usually the story is that the Brethren conduct a ceremony to bury the person, and then the outsiders are allowed to stand at a distance from the rest of the Brethren. So they have to stand separately. So they've still got that kind of that shunning thing going on. You're not even, close enough to hear the prayers or whatever. It's very much at a distance. And then when the Brethren have finished their ceremony, then the outsiders can come forward and pay their respects. But often the coffin has been, covered over by then. It's over, So that is the traditional...
excruciating. It is cruel. It is cruel.
Yep. And in the name of God, just got to throw that out there.
Yeah, all done in the name of God, and it's super confusing, because some of them say, I don't know, it's just really confusing. There's a lot of that, what do you call it? That cognitive dissonance, I think, sometimes going on here, where they want to kind of say that we'll allow you to acknowledge the person, but you have to stand 100 meters away or whatever,
But that didn't happen.
Yeah, but that didn't happen. So
not for Nana.
Yeah.
Anna. So what happened was, actually the story almost begins a year ago. I knew that Anna was ailing, and I wanted to preempt it because I was nervous of something happening, like me discovering after her death. I didn't want that. And so I actually emailed my relatives in the Brethren a year ago, and I said, in the event of Nana getting sick, I would really like to be notified. And I told them, I said, she kept contact with me. I know this is what she'd want. I said, if she gets sick, I'd like to be notified. If I would also like to attend a funeral service, I promise I'll be respectful. I was even happy to wear a headscarf and a skirt and all that. I wasn't going to yell out or create a scene. I just wanted to be able to be present at the funeral service. And I said, I'd like to be present at the burial site. And so I got no reply for several weeks. So I chased it up again a couple of times. And then I got a reply, and I was told you would not be welcome because something like this opportunity is not open to those who are tearing down our way of life.
Oh, there we go. That's so Glory Vale. I don't like that exact phrase.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was confused because at that time Olive Leaf was not launched. And like I wasn't doing anything, I was a boring stay-at-home mum feeding my newborn baby. Like I was just like, what am I doing to tear down your way of life? And I sent back and I asked them that. I was like, can you elaborate? Like, just help me understand, what am I doing? And I got no reply, but it was pretty gutting, but not unexpected. But anyway, so in the bigger picture of things, for the listener who's not acquainted with, my particular story, my father got excommunicated a couple of years ago, and this is his mother who just died. And so he actually emailed them and said, we've heard that she's passed away. Or his brother contacted him several hours after we'd already heard, because we thought we'll sit here and wait and see how long it takes. We'll give them till the end of the day. And I went ahead and booked flights because I just booked flexi fares. I thought, I'm going to go up there. I don't know what's going to happen, but at any rate, I want to be there for my dad and my brother, who's also out. So Dad emailed them, and then he got sent an email back saying, you can come and see the body in our house alone. And Dad sent back and he was like, I'm not actually happy with that. Lindy and Craig Hoyle and Braden and others who knew her and maintained contact with her, we all want to see her. There's a number of people. We want to come to the funeral service and the burial site. And so then there was just nothing for 3 days.
Nothing. And your dad, was he an executor? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, my dad actually was a trustee of the will too.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he was kind of going, hang on, I'm your eldest son.
Okay.
I've got a right to be here. And I mean, he was really polite. He doesn't want, he's not a person who wants conflict. He's not trying to attack the brethren or make them uncomfortable. He's just going, she's my mum. I want to be there. And I believe that these other outsiders also have a right to pay their respects. And so then there was nothing until 5:30 p.m. on Friday night, like the night before. And meanwhile, this church conference is unfolding.
Yes.
They're no doubt consulting Bruce Hales about what to do, because they consult him about things like this. And so we're sitting there, on tenterhooks waiting. And Anna has got another daughter who's out of the brethren. She's been out for decades, and she has children. And they're all in the South Island, and they're wondering if they should book flights. But, there's no communication.
I could have jumped on one of their charter flights.
I was thinking that. Was there any flights left?
Well, there were no flights left. Like, that's why I had to catch a plane at 4:00 in the morning. And at 4:00 in the morning on Saturday morning in Wellington, the airport was crawling with brethren. Yeah, like they were coming back from. I don't know what they were doing, but yeah. And
did you wave your flag, Olive Leaf? Here's a picture.
Yeah, I should have worn my t-shirt, Yeah, I should have worn my t-shirt. I was really hoping I'd sit next to one on the plane so we could have a good chat. But so basically, this email said at 5:30 on Friday night, it said it was very brief and very polite actually, and it said, we have booked you an hour in the cemetery chapel with Anna's coffin. You can't, it didn't say it, but basically it was like, you can't come to our funeral service, but we've booked an hour in the chapel for you, which is unprecedented. The brethren have never, ever done that before for the outside family members. Right. Even when there's been sons and daughters, parents, children, close relatives, they've never allowed that.
2 words. Media nervous.
You are probably right. We don't know. The generous side of me would love to think that they'd taken Bruce Hales's words to heart and thought, wow, let's give them genuine care and compassion.
Well, that's very kind of you.
And what you haven't mentioned is if one of your family members does have a little bit of a voice in the media, doesn't he?
Well, yes. So Craig Hoyle is Anna, the woman who died. He's her great nephew.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's a senior reporter in New Zealand media. Like, he's very experienced, and he's got, you know, some top roles. I can't remember what they are, he's an experienced, respected journalist in New Zealand media. And the Brethren knew that he had written 2 articles that were due Sunday, the very next day, because he had phoned
Nicely timed, Craig.
I'm not sure if there's any link between your concessions for the funeral and all of this, Lindy, but let's just go with out of the bottom of their hearts, they wanted to show you care and compassion.
I think we could say that this is God's big joke. The timing. Clearly a different God from the ones that the Brethrens follow, of course. But
Gosh.
Wow. Yeah, I agree, Kaz. It felt like this is bonkers. Like, it did feel like really funny timing. And there is a part of me that just laughs, because it's almost like Anna had the last laugh.
Yes.
She had spent her whole life like unhappily bending herself to fit this box that she didn't believe. You know, I'll read you something, because she wrote all these letters to people on the outside, and like in one of them she said, just to give you an example, she said, "There is so much about our community that has troubled me greatly over the years. I have felt trapped for most of my life."
Oh, that poor lady.
And she wrote, she wrote about, how can I continue where I am, wearing this mask of conformity, but rebelling within?
That makes me cry.
Yeah. So for her to, you know, spend her life like that, and then have these final years of total subjugation, really, as her mind deteriorated with dementia, unable to do anything, for in the event of her death, for this to happen, she would have been so pleased. I know she would have. She loved me. She loved her son Steve, who's now been unfairly excommunicated. She loved Braden. She loved Craig. She loved all these other people who she maintained contact with. There was no separation from her side, and I know she would have just delighted. And so on that morning, Saturday morning, we all pulled ourselves together. I wore a skirt and a little, you know, headpiece, because, you know, she would have appreciated that. And we went into the chapel, and so the Brethren had put her in there and made themselves scarce. So we briefly saw a couple of the men who were my relatives, but they were just like very discreet and eyes averted. And my dad actually tried to hug his brother. He tried to shake his hand, and he wouldn't shake his hand. So my dad awkwardly hugged him. And then we just got this beautiful hour with her, and we were all able to share reflections and to celebrate her, and just little things like we had flowers there. Well, the Brethren don't allow flowers at funerals. They don't allow personal reflections about a person's life. You know, that's seen as sentimentality and emotionalism. So they don't do that kind of thing at their funeral services. But it was lovely for us to be able to do that. And
sounds like you chose the right one to go to.
Yeah.
The other one sounds quite dull.
Exactly. Their one would have been really hard and really like triggering to be back in one of their halls and all that kind of thing. It would have been hard. And then my story is nearly done. But then we were asked, you know, by the funeral home person to like leave and go to a separate room, because they wanted to move the body themselves. So we saw them through the window. 4 little white shirted men, because that's what they wear, came through and took her body, and then obviously put it in the grave, and then texted my dad to say, now you can come through. So again, we were kind of expecting that, as is traditionally done, there might be a huddle of Brethren there who were doing the ceremony. Sorry, that's my crazy dog. You've showed your crazy cat. Here's my crazy dog. She just wants to sit here and be patted like a cat. You need to hold a chicken up, Liz.
I think so, Liz. You need a chicken.
If I had a choice of pet, it would be a pet rat. Okay, but
I
don't have them anymore. So
anyway, you're getting to the end of your story, Lindy, because we need to wrap up.
Okay. So we got this text. They texted Dad saying, you can come now to the grave side. And so we go around the corner and we go there, and there's not a Brethren person in sight. There's no one. And so we wander over to the grave, and the coffin's in there, and they haven't even put one clod of earth over her. It's the burial process has been left for us to complete.
Nice.
Wow.
Which was really, really special, because it just, it just helps with closure and everything, to be able to, we do the traditional thing of we shovel in some of the dirt ourselves, and we sprinkled flowers in and said a prayer and all that type of thing.
Nice.
And for us to be able to participate in that, instead of being held at a distance and only allowed near at the end, it was incredible.
Oh,
so we just had such a sense of peace. It was so beautiful. So I'm feeling my heart is full of gratitude actually this week. It's just like, this is beyond what I could have imagined. There's still obviously this crazy weird sadness that where are all my siblings? Where's all my aunts and uncles? Where's all my cousins? Anna knew and loved all her many relatives and wider community members. Why can't we all grieve together this woman who we loved? That's still strange and weird. And there was actually dozens of outsiders who wanted to be there, but because they knew Anna, but because of the short notice, couldn't make it. Including her own daughter and family from the South.
Oh, that's sad.
That was bittersweet and stupid and unnecessary.
That's Gloriavale has a system of burying people really quickly, like the next day, and there's always been a belief it's to stop family coming, finding out, making a fuss at the funeral. And there have been some funerals and leavers have gone respectfully, and it's turned into an uproar and they've cancelled the funeral. So in recent year or two, in the recent year or two, they have had 2 concessions in the last 2 funerals, where they have allowed a graveside ceremony, because they've got the gravesite at Gloriavale. So they actually set up a marquee and some tables and some bickies and cookies, Gloriavale did, and then they had their own separate service up in the hall, and leavers weren't allowed to go to that, but the leavers were allowed to go to their own one down there and do graveyard stuff.
My gosh, maybe they're getting advice from the same people.
Same lawyers.
And maybe they are in that support group that we were talking about when we were off the air, a guru and cult leader support group.
How to deal with people when they're attacking you in public. Make it look like there's some,
they probably are, because
concessions. Because you get a lot of emotion over death and funerals, and so you don't you give a concession, and it's just worth it for a bit of peace.
So I think it's worthwhile for Howard Temple and Bruce Hales and many other people like them to all be in a group together and get some tips on how to manage these tricky emotional moments.
I reckon.
Anyway, we need to wind up, guys. We need to wind up. This has been a really fascinating conversation. For me, I've been a lot more quiet than normal because I just don't have any experience in these kind of highly, church sort of Christian-based groups that you guys are talking about, and it's this similarities.
And really, at the core of it, what we're talking about is these charged encounters when outsiders and insiders, when their worlds want to overlap, and how do these groups how do these groups react and respond when these worlds collide, right? That's what we're talking about. Absolutely. It's the
extreme inside outside definition
boundary.
Which Centrepoint didn't really have that real clear division between inside and outside. It was a much softer line. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please keep listening to more episodes of Cult Chat. I think we're rolling up to episode 13 now. It's pretty exciting. You can find additional information about this episode on the show notes, and further information about our show on our Facebook page, Cult Chat. Join up and you'll get some bonus material there, and you can even participate in conversations. Tell your friends about the show, share the links to the show, leave a review for us on Facebook so our message can spread further throughout the cultiverse.
Exciting. We now have a YouTube channel, and so that's where we'll be loading up these videos.
And that too. All right. It's been lovely talking, girls.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya. No mai, haere mai. Welcome to Cult Chat, the podcast where we talk about control, coercion, and all things cultish. I'm Dr. Caroline Ansley. I'm a medical doctor. As a child, I lived at the notorious Centrepoint community and now I run a website that advocates for former Centrepoint children.
I'm Liz Gregory, and I lead the Gloriavale Leavers Support Trust. I've spent the last decade helping people exit Gloriavale and journeying with them and building new lives.
I'm Lindy Jacob. I'm a former member of the Exclusive Brethren, and I'm part of the Olive Leaf Network, an initiative that supports people leaving high-demand religious groups.
Come with us as we unpack the cult playbook, talk to leavers and experts of coercive and controlling groups, and call for Kiwis to cult-proof their lives.
Join us as we traverse the cultiverse.
A warning, this podcast contains references to subjects and discussions which may be difficult for some people to hear. Please take care of yourselves and your whānau when listening.